Futurama Issue 5. The reporter Morbo says that tonight, mankind will totally meet its demise and be subjected to the humiliation of a game show. It was obvious that he was building up to something surprising. He greets a hippie, hating him, and he thanks him, and he wastes time bragging about the fact that he plans on donating his potential prize money. He's told that if he doesn't answer a question, he'll be destroyed. That wouldn't be legal. And there's even humans in the audience. After he's destroyed, Fry doesn't care at all. I guess he's not meant to be a good person. He says something impossibly stupid again, and they all get called to Farnsworth because his worst enemy is going to make their lives miserable. And by that he means the IRS, who discovered that Farnsworth is 160, 10 years older than the age he's been putting on his tax returns. How did they take this long to discover that? They'd have the internet. So because 10 years aren't accounted for, he has to pay back taxes. And if he can't come up with $1 million, he'll have to sell Planet Express. He can invent anything, so couldn't he easily sell one of his inventions for $1 million? He could sell it on a primitive planet where there'd be demand. It's more like he wants to trick them all into doing the work for him, I guess. Scruffy makes a joke about going to get a specific degree, and Fry says they have to raise the money themselves to show their appreciation for him paying them. They laugh at him, as I wonder why they're doing that because surely they would want to keep their jobs. Surprisingly, when Fry's told he only has a week, he attacks Farnsworth. I guess this has been building up in him for a while. That and he's embarrassed that he stood up for him when he's being expected to do this. It's so nice of Farnsworth to not fire him for it. Maybe he's planning revenge right now. Leela says they have to try, as I'm still wondering why any of them will get the idea to simply sell one of Farnsworth's inventions to immediately make $1 million. Amy's got a doctorate or something, but not common sense, which I thought Leela had in spades. But you couldn't make an interesting plot around them immediately doing the obvious thing, could you? What's fun about applying for a patent on an alien planet? Instead we see a montage where they do a car wash. I'm not reading the sideways text. I was hoping we'd see them doing a whole bunch of different things to impress me with the writer's creativity. But instead a whole page was used up on this. 4 days later, Hermes says that they're still short of paying off the debt despite the great sales of the Wild Girls of the Workplace video and Amy's French kissing lessons. It's unexpectedly funny in a shock humor way that she agreed to do something like that. I feel bad for her, but it's a joke that took me by surprise because of how calm Hermes was. After our time is wasted with them despairing, the story takes a predictable route by having the game show come back in the story for a Chekhov's gun. Fry passed the tests on the show's contestant hotline because he lucked out and knew the answers. Bender compliments Fry in a surprisingly nice way and he's thanked and called Buddy for it. Fry says he won't lose and asks if he looks like a loser, and his friends are all too nice to say he does. And he's told the obvious, including the fact that Farnsworth risks their lives constantly and pays them too little. Wait, why doesn't he just build robots that can't question him and use them for a crew? I guess because there's sentient robots out there, it'd be illegal for him not to pay them. And a crew with free will is smart enough to succeed at their missions. So he has to have them free will. Fry ignores the fact that Zoidberg really wants to be his partner on the show because he doesn't like him, because apparently he doesn't hate him enough to risk his life. Robots aren't allowed to be in the game show because of their memory capacity. Zoidberg being desperate to risk his life only makes sense because he foreshadowed it earlier in the story. And it makes sense that he'd hate his life. Leela says to her friends that they've got to think of something. And Bender says he doesn't know who the professor knows that has that kind of money. And somehow Amy says no one comes to mind. Which only reminds me that her parents are rich. And Bender's a thief. I guess they'd think Amy's parents are such greedy jerks that they'd never give Amy the money. And would rather get a different job. And they wouldn't want to risk Bender getting caught trying to steal from them. Hermes is wearing a shirt with the word mom on it. So Scruffy gets an idea, and Farnsworth doesn't want to ask the woman nicknamed Mom for money. He wants to put a clone of Fry in the game show, but he'll be on the show tomorrow, and he complains that cloning takes time, and to do it right, he'd have to be lobotomized for some reason. Rick is better at cloning than he is, and this guy lives 1,000 years into the future. Leela says they'll all help pay him back, and Fry walks into the wall, but at least it was justified that he did it because he had a book in front of his eyes. But he wanted to challenge the wall to a fight. Why would Farnsworth try to ask her for money instead of just selling one of his inventions and getting rich? He'd rather swallow his pride because he's that lazy? She says she'll buy Planet Express on him, and her son says they could threaten him to agree. Fry's so-called friends don't seem to care about trying to stop him from risking his life, probably because they're realistically tired of how dumb he is. Surprisingly, Leela shows up to be his partner instead of Zoidberg, who must have taken the hint. He hugs her, and for some reason, Fry's the smart one and Leela's the really stupid one, because he comes up with a plan to save his own life, and she refuses to do it out of honor. But she's only saving his life because of honor in the first place. There's no real stakes here because we all know Fry won't actually be removed from the comic forever. There's a lot of boring panels as the game show starts, and Farnsworth says there's something he has to do to save Fry's life. But Fry keeps answering the trivia questions right, which was foreshadowed because he got all of the questions right to become a contestant. But so did the other contestants, so it's really that he's getting lucky because he's the main character. He answers boring questions about pop culture I don't know about. He says he'd like to get Leela's help. At least he apologizes. Then he remembers Scruffy telling him some trivia about English royalty that he read in a magazine, which comes out of nowhere. So Fry wins because he got lucky. And there's a predictable ending joke because Farnsworth already sold the Planet Express, but Fry doesn't get to be rich because the sale took place 12 minutes before he won, making him an employee of Mom Corp, the owner of the show, which makes him ineligible to compete. Even though that's clearly unfair because he wasn't an employee of her when he started the game show. It cuts to Farnsworth having the problem solved. He traded his valuable Mom Corp stock to Mom herself. So he solved the problem because he traded away stock that we never knew he had before. The story ends with Fry sweetly listening to Scruffy's history trivia, interested in what he's saying. For once he seems like a real person instead of just a source of idiot jokes. So he's not always dumb because he's able to memorize a lot of trivia if he wants to. This story was about Farnsworth facing bankruptcy because of the IRS finding out he owes them money way later than they would, and it's never once mentioned that he could simply sell an invention and get rich in a second. The crew that's too stupid to think of that themselves tries some money-making schemes before Fry goes on a game show to try to raise money. A game show that's somehow allowed to kill its contestants. I don't know why this trope happens more than once because it's so stupid. I liked the part where Hermes told us the various ways they tried to raise money better than the game show part because it went on for too long with boring dialogue, with the stakes being blatantly fake. I was proud of Fry for getting the trivia questions right. He's trivia smart, not common sense smart. It'd make way more sense for Leela, but it's kinda justified because he watches the show a lot, so he'd remember the answers better. But Amy's established in the show to be studying for a doctorate. She cried when she was told that she didn't get a Nobel Prize yet. So wouldn't it be better for Amy to go on the game show to take advantage of her character? Farnsworth's subplot ended up being pointless in the end. Fry won anyways, and what he did made that victory pointless. I don't know why they couldn't just have Fry win $1 million and then spend it all.